Okay, this is going to be the first video in my Deathrun mapping walkthrough series. Now, just quickly before I begin, the reason I'm doing this is because there seems to be a bit of a Deathrun map drought at the moment. So I want to encourage as many people as possible to just have a go at making a Deathrun map. And the purpose of this is to show that it's not as hard as you may think. So, first of all, you got to make sure you've got Team Fortress 2 installed, which I'm guessing you do since you're watching this video. Now you want to go into your C drive or whatever other letter your main drive is on. Program file, Steam, Steam apps, common, Team Fortress 2, bin, and in here you will find hammer.exe. So you want to click on that. Select Team Fortress 2. Now when you come in here it's going to look like this. You're going to want to make a new file, a new map file. So here you've got a grid, but you've got three, well you've got the four windows. One is the camera, the other three are the grids, but they're on like different axes. So you've got like the top, down, side, and then the front view. Now, don't worry about all of these for now. You do not need to worry about these. Do not even touch these. And make sure that these are like this. I mean, they should be off if this is your first time starting Hammer. So, what you're going to want to do then is select the block tool. This is how you make your brush geometry, which is the basis of all BSP maps. And on the right here you're going to want to select a texture. Now I normally use no draw for everything, but to make things simpler I'm going to use generic textures. So with your block tool and your texture selected, I mean you can use any texture, but I'm going to use this. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to turn the grid down to 32. Always make sure your grid is a decent size, because otherwise you start making things that don't quite line up. It's very easy for leaks to happen. So here is my first brush. Now what I did is I selected and then I pressed enter, because that's what makes the brush once you've drawn it out. You press delete to delete a brush if you don't want it. So this is the floor. Now if I compiled this, you know it wouldn't really work because there's no spawn location. I mean, you could go around and spectate, but you need a spawn. You need spawns. But before I do that, I'm actually going to make some walls. In fact, I think I've made this a bit too big, so I'm going to resize that. I think 512 by 512 is a decent starting point. I'm just going to make some walls here. Now what I'm doing there is I'm holding shift as I'm dragging the brushes. That makes it a lot easier. It's a lot quicker to do that than to create a new brush. What I'm going to do here is I am going to I'm going to make a new brush here, actually. And then I'm going to just making a spawn area. Then we'll make that 512. Let's just drag it out a bit so we've got an idea. And I'm going to enclose these walls a bit more. just like everything to look neat. Now in here, I'm going to put some spawns. Now as you can see, it's facing that way, when really I want it to be facing up. You want the spawns to be facing the spawn door, so I'm gonna right click and do transform, because that's a lot more accurate and precise than dragging it like this. You want to use the transform tool. Then I'm going to, well, you want 32 spawns really, because most servers have 32 players. Some of them use 33, so expect 32 raids. And before we do that, we're going to want to set it to red, so only red team spawns here. We got 6 there, so if we do that 6 times, that'd be 36. But we can just delete those 2. So there's our 32 player spawns, team spawns. Now I'm going to teach you the correct way to set this up. Before we go any further, I will run this and show you what it looks like, but we really need to we need to create the activator side, or Hail's side, because most Deathrun servers used to use versus Saxton Hail. You want his side to be, you know, fairly reasonable. In fact, here, I tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do a window, just so you can see whether he's active or not. Let's give it a glass texture. Just window 1 will do. Then I'm going to bring that here. Just going to reselect the generic texture, right. And I'm going to bring that over to here. So here's our start. Now we should really give it a bit more colour. So I'm gonna make the floor red, just to give it some colour. I'll make Hail's floor blue. Just nice to have a bit of colour, don't you think? Walls can just stay grey. Now, what I'm gonna do is put some... I'm gonna be really cheap here and just put the Skybox on top. Sorry if this is a bit slow for you, but it's the only way to really show you how to do it. But by the end of this series, you will know how to make a Deathrun map. Of course, you can make it look a lot better than this. I'm just doing it. I'm not trying to focus on the details, on the visual details. I'm trying to focus on the actual logic aspect and functionality. See, this is how you should do a skybox. Never create like a big box like this. This is an absolute no-no, okay? Because it increases compile time and it can affect players' performance. You want the skybox to be right above like this. Like, you want it to be as tight as possible, especially in something like a Deathrun map, because players aren't going to be rocket jumping or anything. You can always increase it in certain parts as well. But just for this beginning section, I'm going to have it like that. Now, I haven't really thought much about the layout, so I'm just gonna do something basic. I'm just gonna do like a basic line. I tell you what, why don't we just make it like in the shape of a question mark, because I honestly have no idea what I'm trying to do design wise. I'm just winging this. I haven't really thought much about it. So yeah, this is going to be the most boring map ever, probably. So let's bring that down. You don't have to have hail side on the right, but it does seem to be quite common to have hail or the activator side on the right. Actually, I'll tell you what, I'm going to bring that down a bit. Make it just a little bit smaller there, yeah. Once you get good at this, you'll be able to do things quite quickly. See, I'm going to focus on doing the layout first, then I will focus on doing the traps. Some people do go like make the traps as they go, but like I used to do that as well, but I find it's a lot quicker if you just make the layout. Have the traps in mind. Like I have got a few ideas for this, because I'm going to show you guys how to do custom textures, custom sounds, all that jazz. And feel free to increase the speed of the video, I don't mind. If you think I'm going a bit too slow for you. Let's do that. Bring that down. Put that up. Across. This is going to be probably a short map. You know, well, I don't expect this to be played, but I might still like upload it just in case anybody wants to check it out. See, all it really takes is time. It's not that difficult. Hang on, have I got... I might... Yeah, that's right. Let's go over here. Another good thing about having the Skybox up, it means we don't have to bother too much about putting light entities everywhere. But I will still show you how to do that. See, I might make the spawn area enclosed, and I'll put some lights in, just because I want to show you how to do it properly. I tell you what, I will make a slight doorway for the activator as well. You've got to make sure it's at least 64 units wide, because that's like the width. That's like the minimum width of a TF2 player. The minimum height is also 96, although I would do 128 just to make sure they don't bump their heads. Now this is what I tend to do. I tend to make a logic relay for every trap because it helps with testing, but it also kind of gives me an idea for each, like where each one's gonna be. I might do the funny thing where it breaks. And also, it's not necessarily going to be completely flat like this. I'll show you how to do water as well. But let me just do this just to sort of get an idea. So I tend to just call it trap 1 relay, and I might not have one right there, just in case I want to put something there. Maybe one there. It depends on how big you want the traps to be. You don't want them to be too big, but you still want them to be, you know, balanced. So let's suppose that that's there, just to get an idea. Other people may do things differently, but this is how I tend to do it. I tell you what, I'll let the corners be safe areas. Alright, so that's 2, 3. Remember, this isn't going to be particularly long because it is, as I've said, just an example. You will obviously want to make your maps a bit longer. Could have one there. Trap 6. Say trap 7. Trap 8 around there. Should say trap 9. And we'll have one more before the end. Trap 10. Now, I'm going to seal this up just for now because I'm going to compile it and show you what it looks like in game. But before that, I'm just going to do some finishing touches. This is how you add props, by the way. Change your entity tool to prop static. See, this is the entity tool. It lets you place entities. Prop static is how you make props. And there's plenty of models that are already in the game that you can use. Trying to find the light bulb, the 2-4 one. I'm just going to do something basic here. So, we're going to place a light entity. Placing a light model doesn't create light. You still need a light entity. But it's good to have a model, you know, because it'd be a bit weird otherwise. I tell you what, I'm going to give it a bit of a yellowy hue, because lights are never completely white. Well, light bulbs aren't anyway. Let's give it a slight bit of a. Should we give it that? Give it a bit of colour. That kind of looks close, doesn't it? I mean, I tend to use a different value on my maps, but you know, it only has to be close. And I'm gonna center this because I'm like that. I don't like it when it's not centered properly. And of course, I've got to make the spawn point for the activator. But I'm going to turn him round so that I'm going to turn him 180 degrees so that when he spawns, he's facing the red spawn room. We won't get into cube maps yet, but you will need to. That's strange. Yeah, that would have caused a leak there. I'll tell you what, I'll tell you what, we'll make it orange so that we know this is simply a placeholder. Now there's one last thing I've got to do. We've got to make the buttons. If you type dev in the texture filter, you can find a few other kind of dev type textures. I just use 20% in Higher just because it's why not? You can use anything. Now there's two methods of creating, there's two sort of main ways of dealing with buttons. One way, which is what Cocainum does, is to delete the button immediately. The other way is to have the button move. But I'll do it the simple way. So make it a func breakable. Wait, no, func button. Sorry, getting a bit carried away there. Make it a func button. Now what you want to check damage activates, use activates. And what we're gonna do is, because if you have use activates, that means people can press the E key or whatever their use key is bound to activate it. But that only works if you use on pressed. Don't use on damaged. So you're gonna want to do self kill. Now it's going to show up red and it's going to go grey there, but this is valid. If you've got exclamation mark self, that refers to itself. So it's basically like saying, if this had a name, it would basically be like putting the name and then kill. But you don't need to do that. In fact, you don't need to name it at all unless you need to refer to it by another entity. And you don't need to worry about it moving because it kills itself instantly. And then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to add another output on pressed, trap1 relay, trigger. So when this is pressed, well, I should really move that, it will trigger this. I tell you what I might do. I might put like a spinning thing or something. I'll tell you what, I will move that down. I'll put something else there. We can always shift it about. And then you're going to want to hold shift, copy that here. Ideally you want to line it up with where your trap is for obvious reasons. But make sure you change the output to the next relay. I won't do every button yet because I'm sure you're eager to find out what this looks like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run it by pressing, well, first of all you want to save your map. So I'm going to call this dr example. It's going to be saved as a VMF because that's before you've compiled it. Then I'm going to run map, which will compile it. Just leave it as it is, and I'm not going to. Actually, no, I will run the game because this shouldn't take long. when you run the game through Hammer, it starts up a lot quicker because it does it in low resolution. And it just goes straight into the map. So hopefully if OBS is capturing this properly, you will see. And it's dark because I forgot to put a light environment out there, but you can see in here, this is all lit up properly.
Giddy up!
I press this, it goes. Hold on, let me fix that. So you're gonna want to put a light environment. Well, anyway, that shows you what happens when there's no light environment, because the light environment entity is what gives the Skybox light. For this map, I'm just gonna have it go straight down, but you can change that. Let's make it that. Go on. Actually, no, that's not quite. Give it a bit of an orange tint, actually. There are some preset ones you can use that are, if you look up the TF2 skies. Oh, I'm just making this up. Yeah, there are some presets you can look up, but that should do for now. That might be a bit goofy actually, but we'll give it a go. It's important to have the ambient light setting, because that's the light that's what shows if it's not in the direct light, although to be honest it doesn't matter because it's shining right down anyway. Oh look, here's our light. I should really
Giddy up!
I should really set it to something better, but there you go. And of course, I need to make this glass, otherwise I can't actually see. So let's quickly do that. But yeah, we only want this side to be glass, don't we? I'll worry about these in the next video. I'll make them a bit neater. Let me change that. I don't like that. I'm gonna take the ambient off and just give it. I'm just gonna make it really light. Maybe. Yeah, let's just leave it at that. Right, let's compile one more time. Luckily I have an SSD on here, so it doesn't take too long to come on. Right, that's a bit better.
Let's do it! Ow!
If we spawn on red.
Demo, it's Pauling. I've got a contract for you.
5, 4, 3, there we go. We spawn in the red spawn, so...
I just
got
will
this
do
far,
it!
then that's a start. I will change the sky. I'll show you in the next video the list of preset skies, because I don't like this sky anyway. This is just the default sky. I wanted to just get it compiled to show you that it works. So next video we'll finish up the buttons. I'll make this side neater, and we'll start making some traps, and I'll show you how to do custom sounds and all that jazz.